Hi guys, welcome to the farm. Today we are going to share some fun facts about goats. So our first fun goat fact is that goats are very much like dogs in that they actually learn certain words. So they can learn certain words, they can learn commands, they know what their name is, they know come. They kind of know, giddy up because you can train goats to pull carts. They know their names and they know load up. My goats, they know when I tell them to load up that means to go get in the car. Calls and voices. So just as humans have different voices, you know, just know who is talking to us, and just like even infants, when babies cry, it's for different things. Goats have different calls for a different thing. So if they're hungry, they have a specific way they say it. Just some attention, they have their death scream. If they they have a specific way that they call, and then each of the babies has a specific sound, so the mama knows whose baby belongs to who. And interestingly, goats are one of four species that understand complex language and accents. So they actually can understand different languages too. Goats can adapt. So if you have a goat and then that goat were to go live somewhere else and be with somebody else, let's say, took the goats to France and then somebody was speaking French to them, goats actually are intelligent enough to be able to grasp an understanding of that different dialect. I think that is probably one of the coolest things about goats. And so we say four species because it's humans, other primates, so primates, dolphins and whales, and then goats are, the species that understand complex language. I would probably within the top 10 after that, I would say that dogs, parrots, rats, and mice, that, they're pretty intelligent species and they definitely understand different commands and different, you know, things that we say too. And generally, goats, like humans, are very social creatures. So, a lot of people like to have goats for pets inside their homes, and no judgment here. But generally, if you do want to decide to have a goat in your life, it's best that they have a friend. And really, I think with any animals, even us as humans, the buddy system is always, best case scenario. We always want a buddy with us. And so goats are no different. They like having buddies. And if you can't get two goats, but you do absolutely want to have a goat in your life, dogs, they get along with dogs. Goats are actually pretty good about getting along with all sorts of different species. We have a donkey that stays in the pen with our goats, and they love their big old donkey, and that big old donkey loves his little goats. And then the dogs, even the rabbits, turtles, generally the goats just get along with everybody. I guess, though, when it comes to dogs, you just have to be careful of the dog's temperament and personality there, right? So, goats can get depressed, and they do that when there's only one of them, and they tend to get depressed. And then even in a herd, they do have their little herd hierarchy, and it's a matriarchy. So the boy goats, which we call bucks, would like to tell you that they're the leader of the group, but that is not true. They actually have herd queens, so the dominant female will be the one that kind of the rest of the goats follow. And so our herd queen, if you look at that picture there of the little red and white goat, she's in both those pictures by that rainbow tub there. That is Honey Bunny, and that is our herd queen. So the rest of the goats follow her. Her and the donkey are the bestest of buddies, and in fact, her baby is the donkey really loves her baby. And then Chocolat here is my number one therapy goat, and so she spends a lot of her time with me and with other people, being socialized and being trained to be around different people. So she has a very dominant personality too. And so if any of the other goats come out of the goat pen and are over here for goat therapy, that's kind of when our little number one goat here tends to be the one that is in charge for the most part. If Honey Bunny's out too, then she's just Chocolat is just being a little bully there. And goats are actually pretty independent. Animals, and they like going on little goatee adventures for sure. Goats have very interesting eyes. It's kind of this little quirky thing of evolution, kind of just how they were made. They have these rectangular shaped pupils. So some people find them kind of a little odd, a little spooky to kind of look at because of the way their eyes look, especially like with Dill here, who has blue eyes. They can look really funky in the sunlight. But just like humans, goats' pupils do dilate depending on the amount of light that they have coming in. So they can get very big and wide and look kind of roundish, but for the most part, they're those very, they're horizontal slits. Kind of think of the way cat eyes look. They're those vertical slits. Our cats get those cat eyes, we call them. Goats, they're kind of the opposite of that because they're going, horizontally with those rectangular shape. So, like I said, it's just kind of the way that little goats were made so that they can have that almost 360-degree vision so they can see all around them. And that has helped them to adapt in many different environments because goats can basically live anywhere that humans can live, and probably even a little more wilder places, right? I mean, goats are in almost every culture and on every continent except for Antarctica, of course. But you know, that ability to be able to see all around them is very similar to rabbits, the way rabbits' eyes are shaped, and so they can see, the full, they have a full vision all around them, and it's so that they can, always be on the alert and always see predators. And then, of course, for goats, being able to see all around them just helps them access the bestest, sweetest greens and grasses and leaves and stuff that they can find. If you are a coffee drinker, then say thank you to the goats. Coffee was actually first discovered. Oh, I think it was about 1500 to maybe 2,000 years ago, probably a little more on the 1500 side. Sorry, I forgot, guys. But coffee was first discovered by goats and goat herders. So, the goat herders, they noticed that when the goats were eating this specific type of plant, that they seemed to have more energy. And then, voila, discovered coffee beans, and then we discovered coffee, and then Starbucks, right? Goats are one of the earliest domesticated animals. In fact, many people argue that they were probably one of the first domesticated animals. And no doubt for that wonderful dairy that they give us. And goat meat is actually pretty good too if you get it cooked right. Now, our goats are never for eating. We are a care farm out here on Fairylands Farm. So our goats are raised specifically for educational and therapeutic purposes. But once upon a time, back in the day, goats were so valuable that they were traded for silver. In fact, they were even considered more valuable than those precious metals. And even today, there are still cultures that use goats to barter and use them in a trade system. Goats are actually some of the cleanest animals in the world and the more selective feeders than other bovines, swine type animals, or just barnyard animals in general, and even dogs. So it is a myth that goats will eat anything, even, things like tin cans and such. We have to think about it this way: goats do not have opposable thumbs or fingers like us humans. We and to figure out what something is, we rely a lot on our sense of touch, right? Well, for goats, since they don't have hands and fingers, their sense of touch is in their mouth, basically. And so they use their mouth to explore and to touch stuff and to find out what stuff is. Now, of course, in a little goaty mind, they're like, can I eat it? That's the only reason they want to explore stuff, because goats are actually more of foragers than grazers, whereas sheep are more grazers. They're going to eat that green grass before they start picking out any other foliage. Goats, on the other hand, are foragers, which means they're going to go for bushes, weeds, branches on trees, tree bark, and leaves before they go to eat that nice green grass. So a lot of people want to use goats to lawn care, and they're more like bush clearing type uses would be for that. Now, if you want your yard maintained, that's probably when you want to get sheep, because the sheep are going to eat your grass. Your goats, they're going to eat your ornamental bushes, they're going to eat your flowers. They're going to eat your garden. They will eat everything but your grass. So just to keep in mind, and not to give the little goats a bad name, because they're wonderful. And for us, since we are out in the woods on about 100 acres, we probably use about 20 or so that the goats and run around on. So it's good for them to get out and eat stuff, because we've got, being in a very natural setting, we've got a lot of areas that need that very intensive bush hauling, right? And then goats, so technically they don't like to eat off of the ground, and you shouldn't feed them off of the ground. You should always have a feeder that is up from the ground, because they poop on the ground, they pee on the ground, and sometimes they will, it just gets contaminated. And so I have to roll my eyes, because we say these things about goats, but nobody has informed the goats of these things, because there are some that, bless their little hearts, they will eat off the ground no matter how many times you try to get them to not do it. But generally, you don't want your goats eating off the ground. And once again, goats are, even though, they're always exploring with their mouths and they're always thinking, can I eat it? They really are picky, fussy eaters. A lot of times when you feed them hay and grains they eat up, but the hay, it seems like they probably litter most of it than they eat, because it looks like there's always more on the ground than goes in their mouth. And that's because they pick through it and pick out the best parts of those grasses and hays at first, then before they eat the other stuff. And like I said, goats, they're foragers, and they really like getting that foliage. So, they really like trees, eating trees, climbing in trees. All right, guys. So that is the end of our fun goat facts. Hopefully, you've learned something about goats today. And don't forget to love and hug your goats. All right, guys. Thanks.